for Spring Grove, and my friend and colleague, Kara Wojcik from Southeastern School District is here. And Kara is also a private therapist for a private practice. Between the two of us, we have a bit of experience with working with youth, and both of our passions is to increase mental health awareness within our community. There's a lot of stigma surrounding this topic, and it's something that is super hard to talk about, especially as youth, but also as parents. Our hope here is to help continue the conversation, to talk about some of the trends that we've seen both in Kara's private practice, both of our school work with students, and to kind of show and talk about the trends and what conversations we have had with our youth. I would like to turn it over to Kara.
And the reason I got thrown into this world, I've always had a passion for teenagers and adolescents, but at my school district, we've had 2 youth suicides and a staff suicide in the past 3 years. And over the weekend, there were 2 youth suicides in York County, a 7th grader and a 9th grader. And we can't ignore that. We have to talk about that. And there is this fear that if we talk about suicide, then our kids are going to do it. Here's the thing, they're doing it, we've got to start talking. That is a big false lie. I work in a high school. I ask kids every time I meet with them, are you thinking about hurting yourself? Have you attempted suicide? Every single time. We have to have that conversation. So if you learn nothing else from this presentation, asking the question does not put it in their head. You need to start talking and having those conversations. So that's kind of why Shannon and I have got thrust into this world, was because we are part of districts that have lost someone to suicide. I want to thank you for being here, because as you can see, the auditorium is not full. And that's okay, because often the ones that show up are the ones that kind of already know what they're doing. So thank you for being here. Thank you for wanting to be in your kid's life. Thank you for wanting to learn more. We're not surprised that people aren't always here, because it's one of those topics that you don't always want to hear about, or you don't really want to maybe acknowledge or even hear the things about it. So I want to thank you for being here. The parenting manual. So if you go home and you open up your parenting manual, how many pages are full? None, right? We talk about that. There's a driver's manual, there's all these manuals. Your parenting manual is blank. So you're handed this child, and then you have to, all these decisions you have to make, and then social media gets thrown into it, and parents are, how do we know what to do, right? And so, I don't know about you, probably you didn't have cell phones when you were growing up. We didn't have cell phones. This social media is a game changer, right? And you have no control over what your kids are doing. So, give yourself grace. Know that you're not necessarily messing your children up. Know that your children will be fine. Even though the suicide rates are increasing, a lot more kids are doing okay, right? Just like with school shootings, everyone's getting really, really nervous about school shootings. I tell my kids at school, you're more likely to get bit by a shark than have a school shooter come, right? The trend is, oh my gosh, everyone's gonna die by suicide. That's not true. We're still producing a lot of great adolescents that are going in and being very functional people. So know that. Yes, it's good to have the talk, but know that you're doing a lot more good than bad, and you're not necessarily messing your kids up. And hopefully we can just talk to you today about some things that conversations we're having with youth, and things that we're noticing.
So as Kara said, our young people are faced with many stressors. She already addressed social media has really added to it. And I mentioned earlier, social media is not an evil. It is a double-edged sword. Certainly a lot of good has come from social media. However, when we have an individual who is not in a good place mentally, who is not in a good place emotionally, and they are getting on social media and comparing themselves to other people's perfect lives, seemingly perfect lives, it can send them into a bad place, or it could exacerbate maybe some things are already going on with them. So, just in general, think back to when you were young. We had the difficulty of figuring out relationships, that challenge. It's fun, it's hard, it's stressful. Who am I friends with today? Who's my boyfriend, girlfriend tomorrow? Am I gonna go to homecoming? I already have a dress, but I'm not sure. Am I gonna have a date? Who am I gonna sit with at lunch? Wow, should I take that AP class? oh my gosh, what's mom gonna think if I don't do well on the SATs and get into that college that she is hoping for? I have a list of stressors, and it doesn't even cover half of it. There's fear, as Kara mentioned, within our society in general. There's the fear that mental illness is bad, that it's connected to violence. There's a lot of stigma, and that we need to continue to fight. I was asked earlier, how are we going to help make this better? We need to continue to talk. We need to continue to express to our children and to our parents and to our guardians and to our teachers and to our administrators, and continue to tell ourselves that there is hope. There is absolutely hope. And there's going to be setbacks. There's going to be ups and downs, and that's okay. We can face it. We can get better. We might not be able to do it ourselves, especially as young people. We might have to reach out to the school social worker. We might have to reach out to the counselor. We might have to go to our friend's best friend because we don't feel comfortable going to our own mother. And that is okay. And the biggest message tonight, again, and we will probably say it over and over, and you'll probably get sick of hearing it, will be redundant, but is to reach out and to know that it is okay to not be okay. And there is absolutely hope out there.
So all of those things that list, and you say, so some kids, not having a gym uniform is not a big deal. For someone else, that will throw their whole day off, right? Someone else, they don't want to go to homecoming. Someone else not having a date will throw it off. And I'll have parents say to me, Kara, I raised 2 kids and they were fine, and this 3rd kid, they're struggling, and their anxiety is higher, and I'm not doing anything different. And for me, I always go to this. What is the inner dialogue under the struggle? What are they saying to themselves about the struggle, okay? So we live in a world of not good enough. You're only good enough. I'll say to my kids, and every kid I meet with, I say, hey, are you good enough? And they say, if I ace the test, if I make the goal, if I get into the college. See, our worth, our internal worth is based on external things. That is a problem. I want you to know that you're good enough because you're a good person, not because of social media, not because of expectations. And I tell my kids all the time, I want you to fail. And they're like, ooh, that's so mean. I said, I want you to fail the test, I don't want you to get the part in the play, and I don't want you to get the scholarship. And I definitely don't want you to pick a college based on a sport, because they're going to tell you whatever they want, right? That's a whole other conversation. But we live in a world of not good enoughs. And then I'll say to these girls, ask your mom, is your mom good enough? What messages does your mom say when she looks into the mirror? There's powerful things going on in that world. So think of that. Are you putting pressure on your kids for their external achievements? I'm not saying we shouldn't praise our kids, but is every message saying, I am proud of you after they scored the goal. I am proud of you because of your ACT score. Or, I'm proud of you because you're a good person. I'm proud of you because you stood up for someone. Do you see the difference? You've got to make sure that you're building up that internal stuff, because when that external world comes crashing down, it's a problem. We have kids going to colleges with more psychotic events than they've ever had before. I work with a psychiatrist, and she works at Dickinson College, and she said, I am amazed at the mental health issues we're seeing at the college campus. We have kids that don't know how to function, because they never struggled in high school. And we have kids texting their parents and saying, what should I have for lunch? What should I have for dinner? Mom, it's cold. I don't have my socks, right? Those are the kids that are being raised. And we need to tell our kids, it's okay. I know you can do hard things. Does that make sense? When life gets hard, I know you're going to be okay because you are good enough. So go home and ask your kids, hey, do you think you're good enough? They're going to be like, oh man, you went to that annoying presentation, right? You're all trying to get in my grill. I just want to be on social media. But we have to start having those discussions. On the next slide, I do anxiety groups at my school. I'm very blessed, and Shannon's going to start doing them here. Both our districts, Southeastern and Spring Grove, are on the forefront with mental health, which is a really good thing. And so I'm doing 6 anxiety groups a week, 5 girls and 1 guy, and we'll talk about that because that's interesting because guys actually have more anxiety than girls, but they don't want to talk about it. But anyway, he's like, let me get a shout out to that. But guys are often getting high, just being honest. Maybe not you. But I'll say to my guys, you'd rather numb the pain than talk about what's really going on. So one of the exercises that I have is I have them do this onion. So the onion is, just think of like an onion. On the outside, who am I? And then what's really going on in the core? So on the outside, I might be outgoing and smart. From the inside, I wish I had more confidence. On the outside, I might be happy, but on the inside, I only want what's best for everyone else. That's so many of our girls. I only want what's best for everyone else. Or I just want to be loved. And so when I do presentations to my teachers at my school, I say, often we use sarcasm with our kids, because that's a really great thing, and that's why I like working at a high school. Some kids can't handle that, right? So sometimes dads have a hard time in relationships with their daughters, and they kind of use sarcasm. And if my core belief, my core thoughts are that I'm not good enough, or I wish I had more confidence, or others matter more than me, do you see where there's a problem? So sometimes you're only getting that outside onion layer. And I'll say to these kids, how many of you, your parents, really, really know what's going on? 3 out of 10 kids. And these are not the kids that are maybe on your high risk assessment. 3 out of 10 kids say their parents really know what's going on in their life. So think about that. Do I know what my kids' onion layers are, and what would they say about them? So for me, I've been doing a lot of reading. I kind of get obsessed about this world. My brother will say to me, are you reading another suicide book? And I probably would say yes, which is kind of weird, but I think we have to dive into this world. So I read a book about optimistic explanatory style versus pessimistic. So think about which one of these is your kid, go ahead, Shannon, and think about which one of these is you, okay? So we know that bad things are gonna happen, right? So, not me. So the external one would say, life events stem from external circumstances, not from my individual traits. So life's gonna be hard, not because I'm a bad person, okay? That's the healthy response. Causes are temporary and likely to change. Only a limited part of my life is affected. That's where we want kids to get. But the pessimist says, the problem is with me, not the situation. Core belief, right? I am the problem. I'm not good enough. What's wrong with me? Causes are permanent and unlikely to change. Every aspect of my life is affected. So if you have a kid that gets a bad grade and comes home and says, I'm never going to get into college, I might as well drop out of that AP class, everything is bad. That catastrophizing, right? One bad thing happens and that predicts that everything's going to be bad. Start keying into how your kids are talking about their setbacks and their failures, and key into your response about that. So then, here's another example. A bad grade on an exam. So the healthy person would say math has always been a challenge, not everything math. That was a tough test. What is the negative person going to say? I suck at school, no matter what I do. I'm never smart enough, I always fail, right? And then an example is on the field. That goalie was really good. It was a rough game. But fortunately, a lot of other things are going well in my life. As opposed to, I can't score this year. Everyone is going to think I'm a loser. Maybe I'm not good enough. We see that all the time. So the way that your kid handles setbacks and failures will predict a lot about their success in the future. And you might say, oh my gosh, my kid is a senior. Is it too late? It's never too late. But again, what is your response to their failure? I'm really, really worried about perfectionist girls. That's a high priority for me for the suicide prevention. And we'll talk about that later, but some of those perfectionists cannot make a mistake, and that's not always on you. Parents will say to me, Kara, I am not putting that pressure on them. That's coming from themselves. But that's an area that I'm really concerned about.
And Kara mentioned, what is the message that you are giving them about their struggle? Oftentimes, our kids tell us something and we say, not that big of a deal. And actually, Kara and I are going to kind of act it out a little bit right now. I am a young lady, and Kara is my mom. Hard to believe, I know. Where's your bricks? I have them.
Hey Shannon, how was your day? You look pretty.
It was horrible.
Horrible? You can't have another horrible day. Yesterday was horrible. Today was going to be better. I'm sure it wasn't horrible. What happened that made it so horrible?
I got a bad grade on my test.
What did you get?
A 74.
That's not that bad. Listen, we don't care if you're the valedictorian. You don't need to always get good grades. That kid's really smart. You just do your best.
Mom, I do my best.
I don't understand why you're getting an attitude. I'm just trying to connect with you.
Mom, will you just listen to me?
Every single day, you're like this. I don't know what you want from me. I'm worried about you. You're always in your phone. I don't know how to help you. I've given you a roof over your
Mom,
head.
Chris was walking with another girl down the hall today.
Shannon, he's not good enough for you anyway. You're so much better than Chris. He doesn't treat you good. Why
Mom,
do you
he does. He makes me happy.
Well, you're not happy.
Not when I'm with you.
Oh, I don't know what you want from me. I'm trying to show up for your life. I'm trying to be here. I want to spend time with you, and all I do is piss you off. This is why sometimes I like to spend time with your brother, because he appreciates me. You act like you have it so rough, Shannon. This is only high school. I don't know what to do to help you anymore.
What just happened? And please respond.
Were you at our house this afternoon?
We're talking to your daughters.
Yeah.
You built the wall. You blocked her out.
We built the wall. I was not listening anymore. This afternoon you encountered something similar. We probably all have encountered something similar with our children or our students or somebody in our life. What happened here? What was I doing or what was Mom doing as my parent? What are some of those words? Invalidating, downplaying, minimizing. To her, it's not a big deal. She's a 30-some-year-old, beautiful, professional woman. And here I am, just trying to get through high school. Just trying to get a C by the skin of my teeth. And my boyfriend, I'm really worried about him walking down the hallway and holding hands with another girl, or even talking or looking in the direction of another girl, because what? Because I don't feel good about myself. And then I come home and I get hassled by Mom, and all I want her to do is listen to me. And what does she do? Downplay, minimize. It's not a big deal, because she knows that it probably will get better. Her prefrontal cortex is fully developed, which means she can see the future better than we can see as teenagers. And this wall was built, and I didn't have enough bricks in my backyard, and my husband probably would not have liked if I started taking apart the house. But you definitely got the idea. That wall was built, and what a solid foundation this would be. I'm not a good mason. I probably didn't lay those bricks correctly. But the foundation was laid, and how is this going to be broken? It's going to be very, very difficult. So just be aware of how you interact with your children. I have a 7 and a 9-year-old, and last evening I think of my son was upset about something. To me, it wasn't a big deal. He was tired. He started crying. I had just gone over this presentation with Kara the day before, so of course I'm all about not invalidating. I'm going to validate my kids, and I'm going to lift them up, so I'm being really calm. He's like, Mommy, what is wrong with you? I'm like, what do you mean, what is wrong with me? You're acting weird. What do you mean? The way you're talking. What, you mean that I'm not yelling? He's like, yeah. He's like, what's going on? And that was very eye-opening for me. And I hate to admit that, because I sometimes do yell at my kids, because I had a long day. And that's where I need to know that it's okay. I'm doing the best I can. I probably am not doing perfectly, but he knows I love him, and I'm trying to perfect it. And I'm gonna mess up, and like Kara said earlier, I need to have grace and mercy and know that it's okay, and I can forgive myself. And I apologize to my own children, and I apologize to human beings and students if I mess up. And that will help model to them it's okay. And if I don't validate them, it's okay. I'll do better next time. Some warning signs. Wow, this is just kind of a blur. For mental illness, there are so many warning signs. There was a question earlier, how do you know? What are some of the warning signs that maybe there is an emerging mental illness or that maybe there's a mental health crisis? Well, the biggest thing that I want you to take away is your child is individual. You are the expert on your child. You are, not me, not Kara, not Dr. Cuglieri, not Mrs. Schmoyer, not Mr. Bischoff or Mrs. Mummert, not Mrs. Cernovic. We might know a lot about them, but you are the expert, okay? And so when you start to see change in your child, you need to pay attention. You need to notice. And if you're concerned, especially if it's drastic change, personality change, maybe they're doing things they never did before, they're quitting a sport or an activity, open conversation with them. Honey, I'm concerned about you. What's going on? Mom, I don't want to talk about it. And you very well could get that. But if it continues, reaching out to the social worker, reaching out to the counselor, reaching out to the administrators or to the teachers or the coaches, whoever is in their life and might see them, any setting, start reaching out and asking questions. And if there are some of these signs going on, especially across settings, there might be a problem. Let's be honest, kids are going to experiment. Kids might try drugs or alcohol. I'm not saying that's okay, but it is part of normal adolescent development to be curious, okay? Not every person, don't get that wrong, not every person does that. But it's not always completely alarming to us because our feelings aren't attached to it, but of course as parents it can be very alarming. Is this becoming a problem? Is this becoming a binge drinking problem, that they're putting themselves completely into this lifestyle, completely drowning things out? Are they talking about suicide or harm? Are they starting to self-harm, maybe cutting themselves? Or maybe you notice they've lost some weight, or they cut their hair suddenly. Again, it's hard to know, which Kara's going to talk a little bit about that. How do you differentiate between what could potentially be a mental illness and what could be normal adolescent development? Okay? Sometimes mood changes. Again, there's those hormones, but if you're seeing these mood changes over the course of time, you're seeing for 2 weeks, your child just can't even smile, is constantly negative and down, something might be wrong. Or if they're withdrawn, something might be wrong. And again, communication is key. There's going to be changes and shifts, like I mentioned. There might be changes in peer groups. Maybe you guys all went to church all of your life, and suddenly your 15-year-old is challenging you on your beliefs. Mom, I don't know if I believe this stuff. I want to do my own thing. I'm not going on Sunday morning to church. No. And again, that's scary as a parent. However, normal for kids to start to explore. But again, if you're seeing some drastic things, maybe wearing something completely off, again, there's that change, there's that shift you need to pay attention to. Then maybe something is going on. Is this normal or problematic? I kind of touched on that a little bit.
When we're younger, we do things like write notes in their lunchbox, right? We do things like we give them cuddles and hugs, and we go in and kiss them goodnight and read them stories. And then what happens in their middle school and high school years, we stop doing all of that. And I just read an article about shooters and white males are very lonely. Because when we're younger, we're touching our boys. We're proud of you, good job, right? And as women, we're often playing with our hair. Men are afraid, and you'll see I have a very get real style, right? Men are afraid to touch other men. There's this fear in white males that I don't want to touch my son because maybe they'll think that I'm gay or something like that. And I'm telling you right now, we have to keep touching our sons. Good job. I'm proud of you. Giving them hugs. That is something that is happening, and as we continue to see these shifts in school shootings, which are often white males, One reporter said that, which I thought was really interesting. We give all this support and all this love when they're younger, and then because they're pushing us away, our ego says, well, they don't want me around. Clearly, they're going to choose everybody else, so I'm going to step away. That's your ego. That's what they're telling you. That's what they're showing you. That's not what they're telling you, right? So the question is this normal or problematic? If they're being rude to you, that's normal. If they're being ungrateful, that's normal. If they're not thanking you, that's normal, okay? Is it okay? Absolutely not. And respect has to be earned. And that's why I have trouble with some of my, when I'm doing family therapy, and some of my dads will say to me, I just need you to know that I'm the dad, and they need to know that I'm the dad, and they're the kid, and they will respect me. And I say, how's that working for you? Because you probably wouldn't be here if it wasn't. And I absolutely believe that respect has to be earned. Now, that doesn't mean it's okay if your kid, they'll say, oh, so it's okay for my kid to cuss me out? It's okay for my kid to run away? It's okay. No. I'm very big on choices and consequences. Love and logic is kind of what I teach in my practice, and we'll talk about boundaries later. Another thing is, if your kid is in their room a lot, don't take their door off. Would you want your door off? Right? That's a privacy thing. Now you'll say, Kara, my kid is a cutter and I don't trust them. I understand that, but taking the door off is saying right away, that's just going to make them mad, and then there's no privacy at all. Another thing is, what was it? I just lost it. I can't think of it. I'll come back to it. Oh, if your kid is an introvert, when they're at school and they're on all day, if you're an introvert, you understand, how do you recharge? Alone, without people, right? So your kiddo comes home and they go right to their room. So you think, and I don't blame you, my kid's depressed, my kid is isolating, there's something wrong. And my kids will say to me that I talk to, I just need to be away. I just want to be away. That's how I recharge. Introverts recharge without people. Extroverts want to be around people. So don't take that personal. Now, there has to be expectations. You will sit at the dinner table for dinner. You will not bring your cell phone. None of us will have cell phones. We will have dinner together, right? Or you will come down and you can do your homework upstairs for an hour, but then you need to be downstairs for an hour with the family. So you can set those expectations, but be mindful that just because your kid is in their room doesn't mean that they're depressed, doesn't mean that they don't want to have a relationship with you. So just, again, knowing your kid and what makes them work. Now, if your kid was always coming home every single day, and mom and daughter would sit at the kitchen table and they would tell me everything, and then suddenly they stopped telling me everything, that's a shift, right? That's a change. That's what we're talking about. But if you have ever known, ever since your daughter was little, she always kind of needed some downtime, don't be alarmed when she's continuing that trend. That's just who she is and what she needs. Okay, social media is one of the biggest questions, and I feel like I poll so many parents on this, and so many parents have different thoughts on how social media should go. First of all, there's something called FOMO, which is fear of missing out. Okay? So if your student looks online and there's a picture of them there's a picture of a party on Instagram and they were invited, automatically they get depressed or they get anxious, right? I mean, that's a really big thing. If they don't get 200 likes on their picture, they take it down, they think I'm not good enough. So thanks social media, that's creating some of that. So my thoughts on social media, and again, you're the expert in your kid. If you trust your kid, if your kid is making good choices and everything feels okay, I don't feel that you need to go through your kid's phone every single day. That is totally up to you. I don't think you need to. I have kids that say, my parents make me turn on my phone at 9 o'clock every single night. They go through every single text, and then they comment on everything I've done. I don't think that's appropriate. Now, my mom likes to use the example that if a train is coming through, you're going to do whatever you can to stop the train, right? You're going to jump in. So if you are concerned, then it is appropriate. But I'm going to tell you that your kids are going to delete all their texts. They have burner phones, and they have apps that you don't even know about, okay? So if the only way to get to know your kid is to read their text messages, you're going to make them mad because that's their privacy, and it's going to push them away farther. I think you should be monitoring Instagram and Facebook and Snapchat if you're concerned. Now, people say, well, I pay that phone bill, and technically it's mine, and I need to know. Again, if you're relying on social media to know what's really going on in your kid's life, that's a problem, okay? You have to have those conversations. Now, another question people say is, I'm really big on, it is not your job to pick your friends for your kids. That's not your job. That is their job. We have parents going on Facebook fighting. We have why didn't your kid ask me to prom? We have parents calling principals saying, I can't work in a group. It is your kid's job to figure out how to get along with people. Why are you getting involved in that? Because what you're showing them is, I don't trust you, you don't make good choices, and you need me to figure it out, right? That's what you're telling them. Because we're so afraid of our kids failing. And what did I say again? I want kids to go through hard times. You can't protect your kid from every bad thing happening. And parents will say to me, Kara, you can't promise me that my kid's not going to die by suicide. I said, you're right. But I can promise you that if you try to control everything that they do and never let them out of your sight, they will be depressed. That's the scariest thing as a parent, is letting them out there and knowing that they're going to fail and make bad choices. But turning into someone that monitors every single thing on their social media. I had a girl this summer at my church camp, and she said, these are AP students, never gotten in trouble. She said, my mom makes me turn on my phone at 8 o'clock every single night, and I can't get it back until my homework's done. She said, Kara, my homework's never done. Again, what message are you showing them? So social media, you can say to them, listen, if I is a
I want your code. I want your media accounts, your login information.
and we blame our and if you're so you can go back to it, yeah. This is a hard we
What does your kid want from you but won't tell you? Kara and I kind of made a list of things and went back.
or things like that. And I'm not going to waste that
dramatic. Maddie Holleran might have heard in the
media okay. Communities